Hey everyone, this is Zane Anderson, and I'm going to do a breakdown over some of the systems for Infecticide, focusing mainly on the wave spawner and the card system. So let's get into it. First things first, this is the card system, and what we're doing here is allowing the player every wave to upgrade. We start with the card system for this because what we're doing is allowing the player to choose their attack method. So with this we have the antibody burst, the spike body, and the lethal injection. And how this works is this is like a long range sniper. Spike body is it's like a timed duration where you can actually redirect damage to enemies. And then you have the antibody burst, which is an orbital attacking system that fires automatically when within range of an enemy. I personally like to go with this one, but to each their own. They're all different in their playstyle. And then we have the enemies, so I'm going to kind of do a quick showdown of the ability system and how it works, and then I will speed up and show the next ability cycle. Okay, now we're at the next ability decision. This here, it isn't actually giving you an ability, it's giving you an upgrade. So every time that you complete a wave, a new upgrade is given, and every 5 levels from the first ability selection allows you to get a new ability. So with this, there comes trade-offs, and so like we have a high defense at the cost of health, we have high regen at the cost of max health, and then we also have increased health and defense. So this one isn't a trade-off, it's actually a double buff. I will actually probably go with this one, and now I will do the breakdown of how this works out. We are going to cover the card upgrade system. So with this, I'm going to showcase what I used to create the cards, as well as how the cards are actually implemented. So with this, I used 2 data tables. We had one for our abilities. This is our attack methods. The maximum you can get in the game currently is 2. If we ever decided to increase that, we can. It basically just uses the row name, the name of the ability, the description to help explain what the ability does, an icon, and then what actor component to give, that's the class, and then the type of ability it is, if we wanted to go with like utility or defense or offense. And there's 3 options here. There's the spike body, antibody burst, and lethal injection. The other upgrade option are the stat upgrades. And so with this is a little more complicated. So we have all of our fancy names, our card names, and then we have the card info, basically what is the trade-off, what is it adding. I believe I could go more in detail as far as like actual values, so players would have a better idea of what changes, and I think that would actually be much cleaner. But for the moment, what we have is just a quick information about what the card does and a nice card image to kind of set the mood. We have there's always a primary stat, and then sometimes there's a secondary stat. I have the added required ability in case we decide to update an ability instead. But for the most part, we're just changing the primary and secondary stats. And how this works is essentially you can choose whether it affects damage, health, speed, cooldown, duration, defense, regen, or the damage multiplier, how much value it's affecting it by. And then I also have the application method, which is add, subtract, multiplier, divide. And I'll explain how that actually gets applied here shortly. So with that, we have the we have the ability card selection. Here's the card specifically. All it showcases is the card title, the card image, and then the card info. The rest of that information is all background noise on what it actually does, and we'll get to that. So with this, I will do a breakdown. So here's the flow. The player starts the game, they get possessed, and then it leads all the way to the level up. This is the initiator, because without the level up we don't actually do anything. When the level up happens, that's when the sparks fly out. This is the spawn system at the location. We increase the current level, and then we get to choose an upgrade. So when we choose an upgrade, it creates the ability selection widget, which allows us to choose our ability. It sets the cards, they float, and depending on what level we are at, or our level up type, we get to determine is it a new ability or is it just a stat upgrade. So the current level plus 5 determines the new ability level, and when we hit the ability level, that's when it adds this. And until then, it just takes the current level as is and determines, oh, you're getting an upgrade, not an actual level. So here we have the list card, and that determines, is it an ability or is it an upgrade? And that's what we saw over here. So it takes the card type, ability versus upgrade. If it's an ability, this is what you start with. So it takes the card number, which is 3, because we want 3 cards. And if we have 3 cards, we want to clear the array. We don't want any more cards to pull from. And it takes the card number and adds a number to it. And there's a reason for this up here. So it takes the data table of abilities, and then it randomizes what row it's grabbing from. The reason for the randomization is the idea is like you're drawing a card, and cards are never static. In this case, there's only 3 options, so it's always the same 3. But if we were to add multiple abilities, then that's when the randomization really shines. It breaks the information out. So it finds the card. What that does is that takes the card and checks, does this card already exist in the pool? If it does, the card's already found. If it's not found, then here's what happens. If it's found, we remove the card number and then we list the card. Basically saying, hey, don't count this as an actual card, we need a new card. And then if it doesn't find the card, then what we do is we make it a card and we add the card to the list. So that basically says, hey, this is that list it's checking. Add this card to the list. We don't want any duplicates of this card. So it delays until the next tick, again, to make sure that this gets updated properly. And this is card number 1. And then we add the card details, and this is where we break the data table information, and we give the ability data, and we add this information. So we add the card details. This is what shows on the card in those 3 spaces. And again, the card is utilizing either ability data or stat upgrade data. So in this case, it's ability data. And we spawn the animation and delay, and then we start the process over again until we have our 3 cards. And again, card 1, card 2, and card 3. And then once we're past this, we clear the array. If it's an ability, or if it's an upgrade card, it works the same way. It's just using the ability table instead. So it's the exact same process, just as abilities, or as upgrades, my bad. Let's go over what happens after that. So this is the upgrade selected. So we hide the ability selection. We apply the changes, and this is the more meaty of the stuff here. So we'll go into that. It determines the card type, whether it's adding an ability or it's upgrading stats. Adding the ability, pretty self-explanatory. It takes the abilities class, which is that actor component that it's adding, and it adds it to the player. However, if we go to upgrade stats, this is where it gets a little chaotic. So with this, we have the if it requires an ability. Right now we don't have any abilities getting updated, so we're not doing anything with it at the moment. But eventually we will get that set up as soon as we can. But until then, this is where it takes the primary or the secondary value and actually does something. So with this, we feed the primary stat or secondary stat. This is just repeating twice for the secondary changes. And what it does is it says, okay, we need to know what we're updating. So we're going to feed that into the stat type. So this isolates specifically what stat is being updated. After it determines that, so it feeds the stat to change, it grabs the application method. So again, add, subtract, multiply, divide. Now it's determining what math are we using. So that returns the stat value and then the change being applied, and that's what gives us the result. And then we actually apply the results in here. So depending on what stat type it is, that's what we're applying the new value at, and that's where we're here. So if it's our max health, then it sets the max health. If it's our regenerate, it sets the regenerate. Damage, defense, all of that gets the new updated values, and it applies directly in the game. Again, repeat for secondary, but this is what allows us to have changes happen over time between each run instead of having to start over each time. That is our card system. Thanks for watching.